All right, everyone, get ready, because today we are going deep into all the excitement and mystery surrounding this Manus AI. This isn't just another chatbot or something. It's an AI agent, and people are saying it's going to completely change, like, the tech world.
You know what's interesting to me? There's all this mystery around it. Even though we don't know that much about Manus, it's causing all this buzz and debate. Kind of reminds me of the early days of the internet, you know?
Yeah, it's true. Everyone's talking about it. But thankfully, we have this article to help us figure it out. It's called Manus, the Autonomous AI Agent Revolution of 2025 by Dr. DrBarai. So, what is Manus and why is everyone in tech freaking out about it?
So Manus is supposed to be this autonomous AI agent. That means it can do stuff on its own. And what's got everyone so excited is that Manus isn't just about coming up with ideas. It actually does things and gets real results.
Oh, okay. So it's not just like a brainstorming partner, but more like a really good personal assistant who actually gets things done.
Exactly.
The article had this example that stuck with me. Imagine telling an AI to plan a trip to Japan. And then you don't just get a plan back. You get, your flights and hotels booked and even dinner reservations made.
Yeah.
It's almost like too good to be true.
That's the whole idea of this kind of AI agent. It's not just about giving you information. It's about doing the whole job from start to finish. And it's not just travel either. The article talks about how Manus can build websites, do really in-depth stock analysis. It can screen resumes, compare insurance policies, all kinds of stuff. And it does it all on its own.
Wow. That's way more advanced than just asking, Siri to set a timer.
Yeah.
But there's all this secrecy around Manus, which just makes it even more interesting. Why are the developers being so quiet about how it all works?
Well, the company behind Manus, this Chinese startup, Monica.im, they've been really secretive about the technical side of things. There's that demo video that went viral, got over 200,000 views on X. That's what Twitter's called now. But their account got suspended right after that. It's almost as if they're trying to get people more excited by not telling them everything.
Yeah.
Like creating buzz through scarcity.
Well, it's working. People are, desperate to try it out. They're even paying crazy money for invite codes online. Yeah. It's like the Wild West of AI right now.
Totally. And it's interesting if you compare this to how DeepSeek launched their R1. That really shook things up in the AI world, challenging OpenAI with a much more affordable model.
Right. And now Manus seems to be going even further, adding this agent thing to the mix. So it's not just about AI thinking, it's about it taking action. How does Manus compare to the big players in AI? What about OpenAI?
That's a good question. So OpenAI's models, like GPT-4, they're really powerful, no doubt. But they're mostly focused on, text and conversations. Manus is different. It's all about doing stuff, completing tasks on its own. There are even reports that it's actually performing better than OpenAI's deep research on this thing called the GAI benchmark.
Wait, hold on. What's the GAIA benchmark?
Oh, yeah. It's basically this test they use to see how well an AI can solve those complicated, messy problems you find in real life. Like if you had to plan something with a lot of steps.
Okay.
So the fact that Manus is doing so well on this benchmark suggests it can really handle some tough challenges. And get this, OpenAI seems to have noticed. They just announced that they're going to have their own AI agents for specific industries like healthcare and finance. But there's a catch. It's going to cost you a cool $20,000 every month.
Whoa.
Yeah.
So OpenAI is realizing that this whole agent thing is the future. But what about DeepSeek? Didn't they make a big splash with their R1 model? It was really affordable and accessible. How does Manus compare to that?
Well, it looks like Manus is actually building on what DeepSeek started. They're taking that impressive R1 model and adding the agent functionality to it. It's like giving DeepSeek's brain the tools to actually get things done in the real world.
So, if DeepSeek was the affordable brainiac, Manus is the one who actually gets stuff done.
You got it. And considering how well it did on that GAI benchmark, Manus might actually be better at solving those real-life problems than anyone else right now. But how does all this compare to, Siri or Alexa, the digital assistants we use every day?
Yeah, I love asking Alexa to play music, but I don't think she can book me a trip to Japan and make all my reservations for me.
Right. So Siri and Alexa are great at following simple commands, but Manus is on a whole other level. It's not just reacting to what you say. It's actually figuring out complex stuff and doing it all on its own.
So this isn't just replacing a calculator. It's like tapping into the power of a supercomputer. But before we get too excited about all this, maybe we should step back for a second and talk about some of the concerns. This all sounds amazing, but what are some of the downsides?
You're right. It's always smart to be a little skeptical with new technology. Like one of the first things that comes to mind is Manus really as revolutionary as everyone is saying?
Right.
Yeah.
Because they're not letting many people try it out yet,
Mhm.
and they're not really explaining how it works. Maybe the excitement is a little ahead of what it can actually do.
That's a valid point. We need to be careful not to get carried away without really understanding how well the technology works. We need more independent testing and evidence to know if Manus can actually deliver on all the hype.
And, there's the big question of privacy and security. Manus needs a ton of data to do its thing. But what happens if that data is sensitive, like your financial records or medical history?
That's a huge question, and honestly, the developers haven't really answered it yet. They need to be very clear about how they're going to keep user data safe from being hacked or misused, especially since we don't really know how Manus works on the inside.
Which brings us to that black box problem. We don't know exactly what's going on inside Manus. It's kind of like a magic trick. You see the amazing result, but you have no idea how it happened.
Yeah, and this lack of transparency makes it hard to trust it completely. If we don't know how Manus is making decisions, how can we be sure they're fair and unbiased? This is something the developers really need to address as Manus evolves.
And don't forget about scale. Right now, only a few people can use Manus because their servers aren't big enough. Can they handle millions of people using it at the same time without it slowing down or breaking down?
That's another big unknown. Making something as complex as Manus work for a huge number of people is a big technical challenge. The developers will have to prove that it can keep up with demand without sacrificing speed or accuracy.
So even though Manus has all this potential, there are some serious questions about its limits, its ethical implications, and whether it can really work in the long run.
Exactly. These aren't minor issues. As we get more and more into AI agents like Manus, we have to think carefully about responsible development and the potential impact it'll have on society.
Yeah, it's this delicate balance between being excited about new technology and making sure it's used ethically and responsibly. And this isn't just a conversation for people in tech. It's a conversation we all need to be having as a society.
Absolutely. The decisions we make now will shape the future of AI and how it fits into our lives. We need to be excited about the possibilities, but also cautious and thoughtful about the risks. It feels like we've opened up this Pandora's box, full of amazing possibilities, but also some uncertainties.
For sure. And even though we've talked about some of the concerns, we can't forget about all the incredible things Manus could do. The article has some really fascinating examples of how it could be used in the real world in all sorts of different areas.
Yeah, and what's really striking is how many different ways it can be used. It's not just limited to one industry or one type of task. There are examples of Manus doing everything from planning trips and analyzing finances to helping teachers and even working in human resources.
Let's break some of these down for our listeners. Let's start with travel, like that example we talked about before. You tell Manus you want to go to Japan, and it doesn't just give you an itinerary, it actually books your flights and hotels and even gets you a table at that super exclusive ramen place you've been wanting to try.
Yeah, and it goes even further than just booking. The article talks about Manus analyzing all these travel trends, finding the best deals, and even figuring out what you like and giving you personalized recommendations. It basically takes all the stress out of planning a trip.
Okay, so that's travel. Now let's switch gears to finance. Let's say you need a really deep analysis of how Tesla's stock is doing, complete with predictions about the future and how it connects to other things happening in the market. Well, Manus can do that for you, all by itself.
It's like having your own personal Wall Street analyst. And what's really cool is that you don't need to be a financial expert to use it. You just tell Manus what you want to analyze, and it takes care of the rest.
That's amazing. And then there's the potential for education. The article mentions Manus being used to create these interactive courses for middle school teachers. Imagine AI-powered lessons that adapt to each student, figuring out how they learn best and giving them feedback and guidance along the way.
It could totally change how we think about teaching and learning, making education more engaging and effective, and reaching even more students.
The possibilities for businesses are pretty mind-blowing too. The article talks about Manus comparing insurance policies, finding suppliers, and even negotiating deals. Think about all the time and money businesses could save by automating those tasks.
Yeah, it really shows how Manus could make businesses so much more efficient no matter what industry they're in.
And we can't forget about human resources. Imagine Manus going through resumes, ranking candidates based on what the company is looking for, and even doing those first-round interviews.
It could totally revolutionize hiring, freeing up recruiters to focus on other things, and maybe even making the process less biased by focusing on actual qualifications instead of just gut feelings.
So, as you can see, there are a lot of really exciting things Manus could do. But, with all this enthusiasm, it's important to keep in mind those concerns we talked about earlier, especially the fact that we don't really know how Manus works on the inside. It's like we're being given this incredibly powerful tool without any instructions.
That's a really good point. The article mentions that the developers have promised to open source some parts of Manus later in 2025, but there's still a lot we don't know. And this lack of transparency raises some valid concerns about accountability, bias, and the potential for misuse.
It's like being handed the keys to a super fast car without being told how the engine works or how to use the brakes.
Exactly. And with something as powerful as Manus, we need to be really careful. Open sourcing parts of it could be a good step, letting more people in the tech community see the code, find any problems, and help develop it in a responsible way.
It'd be like opening up the hood and letting the world's best mechanics check out the engine to make sure it's safe and reliable. But even with more transparency, the fact that Manus exists raises some really big questions about the future of AI and what it means for us.
If we think about the bigger picture here, Manus is a great example of how quickly AI is advancing, especially in China. With companies like DeepSeek, Alibaba, and now Monica really pushing the limits, we're seeing a shift in the balance of power in the AI world.
It's like a tech race between China and the US, each one trying to be the leader in AI. And it makes you wonder, what does this mean for innovation and the global economy?
That's a complicated question with huge implications, but beyond the geopolitical stuff, there's another layer to this, the societal and ethical implications of AI that's becoming more and more powerful and independent.
Like, if Manus can negotiate deals, write code, even analyze medical data, where do we draw the line? Who's responsible when an AI makes a mistake or does something we didn't expect?
Those aren't just hypothetical questions. Those are the ethical dilemmas we're facing right now as AI becomes more and more part of our lives. And Manus shows us just how fast these AI agents are evolving.
It feels like we're at a crossroads. On the one hand, we have this incredibly powerful tool that could change so many aspects of our lives. But on the other hand, there are these legitimate concerns about transparency, control, and what could happen if things go wrong.
It's the classic story of technology moving faster than our ability to fully understand what it means.
It's clear that we need to have some serious conversations about how we want to shape the future of AI. This isn't just for people in tech. It's a societal issue that we all need to be a part of.
Absolutely. But maybe before we get too deep into the philosophical side of things, let's bring it back to Manus and look at some specific examples of what it could do really well and where it might struggle. What are some real-world scenarios where Manus could really shine, and where might it fall short?
Okay, let's start with an area where Manus could really excel: creative industries. Imagine a filmmaker using Manus to create storyboards, find locations, and even make some basic animations. It could give them more time and energy to focus on the artistic side of things, like the story and the visuals.
That's a cool application. But what about areas where Manus might not be as good, like tasks that require emotional intelligence, empathy, or those really subtle human interactions?
You've hit on a key limitation. Manus might be amazing at processing information and responding, but it's probably not going to be able to truly understand human emotions and intuition. So things like counseling, therapy, or social work, which require a deep understanding of people and their feelings, would probably still need humans.
Yeah, exactly.
So it seems like the key is to figure out where Manus can help us, like taking over those boring or repetitive tasks, but also recognize where human skills are still essential.
Right. It's about finding that balance, understanding where AI can make our lives better, and where we still need human expertise.
It's such a fascinating and constantly changing landscape. We'll continue our deep dive into Manus in our next segment, exploring what it could mean for the economy and for society as a whole. Welcome back to our deep dive into Manus AI. We've spent some time talking about what it can do, all the different ways it could be used, and some of the concerns people have. But like with any new technology, the really interesting part is thinking about what it means for the future.
You know, what I find fascinating is that Manus is like this window into the future of AI. It's not just a tool, it's like a sign of where things are headed, this idea of AI becoming a bigger and bigger part of our lives, at work and at home.
It's almost like Manus is making us face these really big questions about like the future of work, creativity, and even what it means to be human in a world where AI can do things we thought only people could do.
Yeah, it's true. We're on the verge of this huge societal shift. Think about the job market. If Manus can automate all these jobs that humans are doing now, what's going to happen to employment in all sorts of fields?
That's a big worry for a lot of people. But there are also experts saying that AI like Manus could lead to new jobs, especially in areas like developing, maintaining, and overseeing AI. It's not necessarily about AI replacing humans, but more about, changing how we work.
That's a crucial point. We need to adapt and learn new skills as this technology keeps developing, focusing on things that complement AI rather than trying to compete with it. Instead of being scared of losing jobs, we should be training people to work with AI agents like Manus, using both human and AI strengths to get the best results.
It's about working together, not one replacing the other, helping us do more, not taking over. It's a tricky balance, but we need to figure it out fast.
Definitely. And as we try to navigate all this, we need to be really aware of the ethical side of things. We already talked about the black box problem, how we don't know how Manus makes decisions. But there are other ethical things to think about, too.
Right, what about bias? AI systems learn from data, so if that data has biases that already exist in society, the AI could end up making decisions that are biased too.
That's so important. We have to make sure that the data used to train AI like Manus is diverse and representative, and that it doesn't include any harmful biases. We have to be really careful about preventing bias and making sure AI is fair.
It's not just about making AI powerful, it's about making it responsible. AI that reflects our values, our ethics, and the kind of future we want to build.
Well said. At the end of the day, the future of AI and of Manus really depends on what we do now. It's up to all of us as individuals and as a society to decide how this technology develops and to make sure it's used for good.
It's a call to action for everyone, whether you're a tech expert, an engineer, someone making policies, or just a curious person. We need to be part of this conversation, asking tough questions, demanding transparency, and figuring out the ethical rules that will guide how AI is developed.
And as we explore this unknown territory, one thing's for sure. This is just the beginning.
And that wraps up our deep dive into the world of Manus AI. We hope this has given you a better understanding of this incredible technology, what it can do, and the really important questions it raises. Remember, the future of AI is not set in stone. It's a story that's still being written, and we all have a part to play in how it unfolds. Thanks for joining us on this journey, and please share your thoughts with us on social media using the hashtag #ManusDeepDive. Until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and keep asking those tough questions.